We are Saxon and Nico.
And in November 2021, we went to the COP26 in Glasgow to interview different voices, including decision makers, scientists, and environmental activists.
We attended COP26 as part of the research for our series, Mission Find Aral, which tells the story of the Aral Sea. In the space of 40 years, the Aral Sea turned from the world's fourth largest lake to the world's youngest desert. Despite the fact it is considered by the UN as one of the worst environmental disasters of the world, it is a situation lesser known by the general public.
At COP26, we wanted to learn about the other lesser known environmental issues and about what actions and solutions are needed for a better future.
My name is Desmond Alugnoa. I am from Ghana. I am the co-founder for Green Africa Youth Organization and also currently the programs manager for Green Africa Youth Organization. I currently also serve on the as youth advisor to the CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation, and I coordinate programs for Africa under the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives.
Brilliant, brilliant. And coming from the talk I heard you deliver last week, you were talking about the origins of your work, and I understand it came from your university thesis, waste management. So a really beautiful story. If you wouldn't mind just sort of retelling your story a little bit and how you got into what you're doing now.
Yes, so I started actually as a movement builder, mobilizing young people to take action, to clean up space and to reach out to government to understand that we need to eliminate single-use plastics. And so at some point I realized that it's important to understand also the technicality and the academics around this topic. So I did a research, conducted surveys with waste pickers in Cape Coast, and then at the end I realized that we need to approach it head on, managing waste and teaching people how to manage waste. So currently we just developed a model which called the Zero Waste Strategy for the city of Accra, which was launched on the 28th of October this year. And we are now managing waste, converting hard to degrade organic waste into charcoal briquette to help women to fuel their kitchens. We also converting some plastics into raincoats, school bags and other things, and then we are composting. Actually, we are composting as an organization. We have our composting facility, and we also encouraging community composting for farmers to improve their soil biodiversity. So I would say the motivation for all this is also tied to where I come from. I come from the extreme north of Ghana, where desertification and drought is affecting farming communities a lot, and I'm a farmer myself, so it was becoming a very direct threat. So it's more of something coming from the point of survival. You're looking for alternatives to survive, looking for alternatives to liberate your community, and so that's where the motivation stemmed from.
Brilliant. Yeah, very inspiring. So if you wouldn't mind perhaps sort of summarizing your other activities as well, and I wonder how you have enough time for all your
it's I work with a team, so it's not only me. As you can see here, we are a lot of young people. So I work with diversity of young people of different capacities, and so therefore I still get time to serve my responsibilities as the advisor to the Global Center on Adaptation, and I also I'm still able to coordinate the programs in Africa under the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, and those are programs that are focusing on zero waste, so they are quite linked up. So we're focusing on mobilizing people to practice zero waste, and also helping government to understand policies that they can adopt in order to practice zero waste, in order to create jobs, in order to actually maximize the income for waste pickers. So we currently have projects in Tanzania, we have projects in Kenya, in Morocco, in Nigeria, in Ghana, and across the continent in Africa. And these are things that we are trying to sort of build up and then cause a movement or a change across the continent, and say, yes, at this point we have alternatives, and we can say that we do not want single-use plastics. We want to create jobs, we want to create green jobs, and we want to increase employment for people.
Fantastic. What do you think, working with youth, with what you're doing, it being at almost the core, what do you think are the most important elements to put youth in the position where they're going to flourish? What worked for you and what works for the people that you work with?
Well, that's what we were just talking with. I was just talking about with my team. We've been here at the beginning of COP, and this is the second week where we've seen some sort of progress, because when we were coming here, we really focused on engagement of young people, mainstreaming youth agenda into the climate discussion. We've seen quite some number of young people, which is not enough, but at least that's fine. But then we are also looking at financing capacity building for young people, because it's not enough to bring young people to the table when they do not have the ability to really change, when you do not recognize them as equally having the equal potential to make the change you want to see. So we need that funding is channeled to climate change adaptation, making young people the lead to mainstream the agenda, but also to make sure that these young people whom you are making the lead have the ability to do the work. And that can only be possible if funding is channeled for capacity building, if funding is channeled to local-based adaptation work, if funding is channeled to diversity of groups that have been excluded in the past, in order for them to build their capacity. So that's one thing that we are really looking when it comes to young people's work. And then the Global Center on Adaptation actually launched and awarded about 10 young eco-entrepreneurs in Africa. And this is gonna catapult. These are businesses that are going to create more employment. These are businesses that are going to really expand and help the entire continent. So at the moment, we are also developing a toolkit with support from CARE International, and this toolkit is going to be used to empower young people, to educate, to give them knowledge. It's going to build their capacity. It's going to also tell them how to actually reach out and broaden the network of climate action. So that's what we are looking at, and I think that every organization, every institution that is here in COP, if they want to engage young people, if they want to engage communities or women groups, it is important that they look at how do we finance these activities and start from scratch so communities feel belong.
And so talking basically about putting the money where the mouth is. So do you feel like it seems that you've been very well respected, and but you say there's maybe an underrepresentation of youth from what you would have hoped. Back home, are you respected and taken on board by the leaders of the country, and how have you found that relationship with political leaders, and do you think that there is a change occurring?
Well, I mean, if I speak for myself, the youth I have mobilized from day one up to now, I would say that hasn't been really visible enough. We haven't really been able to establish that good connection with political leaders to the extent where we are able to say that, yes, these are the proposals from the young people and it has been mainstreamed into national policy. No, we don't see that. It's very difficult to get your ideas, your aspirations, your hopes balanced when documents are coming out, whether it's the National Adaptation Planning, whether it's the NDCs, whatever you call it, as far as the government or the main political actors are mainstreaming it. It's difficult to really have young people equally recognized. What we are now looking at, and what the meeting I was in before you called me, is the Youth Climate Council, which we established this year. This is a more democratic opportunity that we have started this year in Green Africa Youth Organization and in Ghana to actually give an opportunity for young people to mobilize themselves and to build a stronger momentum to that extent where resistance of young voices would be difficult by government. And so we're looking to link this Youth Climate Council with the Youth Climate Council in Denmark, with the Youth Climate Lab across Europe, with an extension to Nigeria, Brazil, Pakistan, hopefully in the coming years. And we want to actually build that voice where it's coming from different geographies and with different impact on climate change. Therefore, government may have the way to resist. But for now, it doesn't really work that much.
And what place do you think the role of storytelling and communication has?
Mm-hmm.
Because, hearing you speak, hearing some other youth speak, there's a real power, and I think it's because it's raw, but when you hear, the older political figure, it seems to be full of nothing a little bit. Is this something that you speak with your youth council about, and the right way of communicating and keeping that authenticity?
Yes, we're currently talking about that. We're talking about how do we create our own narrative, how do we drive our own narrative. And I think the role of storytelling is so powerful because it's organic, it's original, it's about the reality. So when people, at the meeting that I was talking, where we met on the panel, it was about my journey with waste pickers. The informal sector, people who have no direct access to certain jobs in the main market, but they are still making a living. And people who have been suppressed, people whose activities have been criminalized by other countries in the name of let's channel our waste into an incinerator, which is a hoax, which is only making richer corporations that are into the fossil fuel businesses more richer, because they propose this, they know it wouldn't work, they know it won't solve your problem, but it's an incentive for you to keep buying single-use plastic. So I think storytelling makes it more organic, it makes it more relatable, it makes people know that you don't have to stress to say anything. I wouldn't talk about how politicians actually communicate their message, but I think that much of it is very difficult to connect.
And I was just thinking as you were talking, it's almost a nature-based solution. An organic story is a nature-based solution, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So I mean, at the moment, what we have been trying to do is to actually make sure that we revive soil biodiversity with methodologies that do not need chemicals from anywhere. We want to make sure that the earth is allowed to regenerate, rejuvenate, and we've always had it that way. It's always had the potential to become fertile again naturally without so much influence. But it's just because we are not allowing it. And so, yeah, nature-based solutions is something that we need to focus on.
It's very inspiring because all the work done with the youth, so this education and what vision they have for the environment. But I was wondering how, because youth, they represent a percentage of the whole population in the world. Mm-hmm. So how by involving the youth, you shift the mindset of the parents of the youth, etc. How you build a bigger community, because then the political leaders, they will follow, because the amount of people involved in this process is bigger as well. So
yes, that's very true. So the thing is that if you educate a young person, or if you educate a woman, you educate a generation. And so you all of a sudden you break that intergenerational gap that has been existing, you bridge that knowledge gap that has been existing, because they are extension of families and they practice these things wholeheartedly, and so therefore parents, adults, other people get the opportunity to understand or to learn and understand. So that's why the focus, we are now focusing also a lot on making young people, young academicians in general, become knowledge brokers in communities. So when they broker knowledge in communities, when they broker knowledge even at podiums, I mean, we are all here when we see Greta Thunberg, when she started this movement of Fridays for the Future, and we see how much old people come out to actually join some of the protests. But then I can't imagine if the message would have been the same if it was, if the focus was, if it was not a very young person, because she is able to influence her parents. She is living with her parents. So influencing her parents will mean that parents can also influence their colleagues, stuff like that. So yeah, young people, I think we need to really pay particular attention.
Brilliant, fantastic. I suppose just a final thing from me. I remember David Attenborough's opening speech. He's talking about how we should save the world not through fear, but through hope. And I wonder, are there any important parts, like philosophy or ideas that are quite important to your mind that keep you, every morning with that like fighting spirit to keep doing what you're doing?
Well, I think that for me, I have one goal, which is results. And I think results come through action. So every day I wake up, I ask myself, am I seeing results? I'm not really seeing results, but I'm not discouraged because I know that the result is the product of action. And so if I do not act, I should not expect result. And that's why, even though on the second day of the Leaders Summit, I think there was a declaration on methane cut, which has been very important to us. We are here fighting to get a cut on methane gas and also reverse deforestation. And I think there was a declaration on this. And I was happy because even though it's just a declaration, I think the next thing will be action implementation, right? And so as far as you keep acting, you can expect result. And that's my hope. That's what keeps me going.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.